Hey there, it's Olivia-Savannah here from Olivia's Catastrophe, and at the moment that you are watching this, it is my birthday. And every year on my birthday, what I do to celebrate is I make a video entirely of my own choosing. It's usually something niche, it's usually to do with something that I love, and it's usually something that I expect to get no views whatsoever because it's a crossover of things that I enjoy and is very niche. And this time what we're doing is we are recommending books to the characters of Fast and Furious. So if you know me, you know that I unironically love the Fast and Furious films. I have an interest in cars, I have an interest in fast cars, I have an interest in action films, and I do not mind the fact that evidently things happen that aren't possible. Dom survives everything. I've watched every single Fast and Furious film that there is out. I will watch any more that come out, and I've watched them multiple times, like multiple times. You do not want to know how many times I've watched Fast and Furious 1 and Fast and Furious 7 in particular, because those two are my favourites. But nonetheless, we are here for book recommendations, and I'm recommending books to the characters as if they were readers, or if they are going to read one book, which book is that going to be? So Fast and Furious has like a lot of rotating characters, but I've just chosen some that I particularly love. The first character that we have to recommend for is Dominic Toretto himself.
Ask any racer, any real racer. It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
Dom is the man, he is the leader of the found family, and he is somebody who does not have a lot of time for reading, I don't think. I don't think it's something that interests him, but if it is going to be something that he reads, it needs to be fast-paced because he likes to drive fast, and it needs to have found family because we all know that to Dominic Toretto, family is everything. He loves a ride or die. And for him, I'm recommending Jujutsu Kaisen Volume 1 by Gege Akutami. So, why am I recommending this to him? So this manga is about these people who can see demons, and they, you know, exorcise these demons. And there's also a found family element to the crew of friends who end up working together at this school, and there's like teachers who care about their students, and it's got some funny moments, some very silly moments, but it's also got loads of action. And if you watch the anime, those are some of the best action sequences I've seen animated in anime style before. So I think Dom is going to like this because it's going to be full of illustrations, so that will keep his interest. He's going to love the found family elements, especially Megumi and Yuji's relationship. I'm sure it's going to remind him of his and Brian O'Connor's relationship together, and yeah, I just love everything about this manga series slash anime series, so I think Dom will as well. And now we're moving on to my favourite character in the Fast and Furious franchise, and that's Letty.
I smell skanks. Why don't you girls just pack it up before I leave tread marks on your face?
Letty, I was just talking.
Yeah, whatever.
Letty is Dom's girl, but she's not the side piece, okay? If Dom needs calming down, or if somebody needs to take advantage of Dom and like control what he's doing, Letty is your girl. She knows how to handle him. But she also knows how to keep everybody in line, keep them feeling like this is home, and she herself is a fantastic driver. She's so bomb. I love her. I think she's so cool. She's often wearing black and is just so strong, like physically strong. I know that's the actor, but also in the series she's a physically strong character. So later towards the end of Fast and Furious, I'm not giving you spoilers, but as we later get to know her, she starts to prefer bikes over cars, which that's a choice, but she still looks really rocking on a motorbike. And so the book I'm recommending to her is Cool Down the Hawk by Maggie Stiefvater. So while The Raven Cycle is my favourite, one of my favourite book series, I would say that Cool Down the Hawk is not, but she is still going to love Cool Down the Hawk because she's going to relate to a certain character called Adam Parrish. And Adam Parrish is very much a side character in Cool Down the Hawk, much to my upset and despair. But she's going to relate to him because he rides a very cool particular motorbike, and she's going to love that. But also because Adam spends a lot of time loving someone who, in all respect due to this person, is a bit of a train wreck, you know? And Dom's not a train wreck per se, but he has train wreck tendencies, the same way that this character has train wreck tendencies. And so I think she's going to really relate to Adam Parrish, but she's also going to enjoy the chaos that our two main characters in Call Down the Hawk series brings. She's going to relate to Declan Lynch, who spends a lot of time being an older sibling, and while Letty is not an older sibling, she's going to feel like one because of how many people, you know, the found family has taken on. And she's also going to enjoy the art and the whimsy of the series, because even though Letty is someone who is very responsible in some ways and is into fast cars and breaking the rules, she's also a bit of a dreamer and she wants things in life, and so I think this book will suit her perfectly. Now we get to Brian O'Connor, the police agent who, you know, has some wavers in what he thinks is the right thing to do.
What, you think we're gonna crash?
I haven't decided yet.
What are you doing, Brian?
And for my man Brian O'Connor, I'm going to be recommending Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo is about a motley crew of like gang members who group together to pull off a heist. It's in a fantasy world, so there's magic involved and they all have different powers and specialities, and they end up, you know, being a found family, going on a heist, and lots of action and adventure and some romance is happening as well. And so Brian O'Connor is definitely going to relate to this book because he is somebody who has grown up a certain way, knowing certain law systems, and is always trying to break the rules even though he's doing it for the greater good. But he's going to meet this crew, Dom's crew, and his, you know, beliefs in what's right and wrong is going to waver the more he gets to know Dom as a person. And I think that is something he's going to love seeing in Six of Crows. He's going to love seeing their anti-heroes at work. He's going to love a heist because, you know, Brian O'Connor loves a mission that he has to pull off, and so he's going to love the heist. He's going to love all the actions. He's going to love Jesper, the sharpshooter in particular, because there's a certain thing that at some point Brian O'Connor misses. You know the line, if you know the line. And yeah, I think he's also going to love that it's about friendship and ties and unswerving loyalty, because that's Brian O'Connor to a fault. Then we're moving on to Mia Toretto. She is the sister to Dom, and she also ends up having a romance with somebody in the crew.
Wanna go for a drive?
The book that I'm going to recommend for her is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. Now, Lessons in Chemistry is one that I read that took me by surprise. I really enjoyed it. It's kind of a bit of a contemporary historical novel about a woman who has a daughter and who is a scientist. She's a woman in STEM in a time where that was really strongly frowned upon and unaccepted, but it also leads her to do and make different choices in life because of the child that she has. Now, I think that is Mia exactly. When Mia's life changes in certain significant ways, she's ready to make that push-pull so that they can move on to the next stage of life. She's ready to go with the flow. But that doesn't mean that she stops caring about the people that she loves around her. She doesn't care about her brother any less, and she doesn't care about her partner any less, and she wants them all to be happy. But she's also bomb, you know, like she can spar, she can drive when need be, but that doesn't mean that's all she wants to do for the rest of her life, and she's willing to go with the flow and the punches. I see our main character in that book exactly like that. As soon as life throws her something different, she's ready to tackle that challenge head on for the people that she loves. And now we're going to get to some of the side characters who are also part of the crew. So we've got Han.
It's trust and character I need around me. Yeah, who you choose to be around you, let you know who you are.
And this character loves his food. He's always snacking in the films. And so the book that I've given Han is Crying in Mart by Michelle Zauner. Now, you might think, wow, you've given him this book that's about grief, that is soaked in it. And I think that really suits his character if you've watched enough of the films, because there is a moment where Han is grieving for someone very intensely, and I think he's going to find this book quite cathartic to let out all of his emotions. But in this book, this memoir, Michelle Zauner is still connecting to her mum, who she loses, through her love of food. And I think Han will also really like that element of like tasting and trying these different foods and getting to learn about them in their cooking process. and having that as a stream alongside of the grief storyline. So I think that's why this is the perfect book for him, even though maybe you don't immediately think non-fiction. But also, like, Han is a smart character. He can pull off some things that maybe he shouldn't pull off. And because he's intelligent like that, I don't think it's too bizarre or far off to think that he would read a memoir. So then we get to Deckard Shaw. Now, Deckard Shaw is not my favourite character at all, but you know, he's played by Jason Statham, and it's a good action scene. I'll give it to him, but he's not actually my favourite character.
Mistake. I'm not here to play games. See, you and me, we're from different worlds.
And I'm going to recommend him a book because he is basically very angry. He wants revenge, and he will do whatever he can to pull that off. So I'm going to recommend him The Lies of Locke Lamora, because he's going to really enjoy the fact that this is a high fantasy book with a heist within a heist within a heist. And again, these characters in Fast and Furious, they love a heist, and I think he's going to enjoy the mission of this heist. But also he's going to really love the fact that we are following gang members in this, and it's the bad guys who end up on top, or they're the bad guys that you're supposed to root for, and there are casualties along the way, which I think is something he can relate to, and he's just gonna love that the bad people get the goods, you know? And so I think he's going to enjoy this book. Moving on to Tej. So Tej is one of the most hilarious characters in Fast and Furious. When you meet him, he's just running a like drag race kind of situation, and gradually throughout the film, suddenly he becomes a super hacker. And it's so funny because he has no training whatsoever, he has no background in this, but they shift his character completely over the course of a couple films.
Wait, no, just hold on, man.
I'm going to recommend The Martian by Andy Weir. So The Martian by Andy Weir is a book where somebody ends up stranded on Mars and has to survive until the, you know, our fellow astronauts can send back a rocket to send him back home. And he ends up stranded, unprepared, and also not particularly the person who was going to be running the mission on Mars or the person who was going to be the most important. He was just there to look after the food supply for them. That was his main aim. And so you've got somebody who doesn't really have the skills to be stranded on Mars, have to quickly acquire them with a sense of humour, and that is Tej to a fault. He is somebody who has no skills in being a hacker, but he's good at people, and he's humorous and funny, and he suddenly has to acquire all of these skills. So I think he's going to really enjoy the main character that you meet in The Martian. I can't mention Tej without mentioning Roman. So Roman is our Joker of the group. He's the one who pulls all of these like very silly jokes in the middle of the films. He's a driver as well, and he's a good driver, but he really is the comedic relief in these films.
Hey, Mia, you better hide your baby, or I'm just playing.
You better hide that big ass forehead.
I was just joking.
And you know, you love to hate Roman. I don't find a lot of his jokes funny, but then he'll just say one thing that I don't even think is supposed to be the funniest thing he says, and I'm cracking up. And for Roman, I needed to have something that was funny, but you know, when push comes to shove and he needs to be serious, he's in the zone and he's focused. And that's why I'm going to be recommending him Born a Crime by Trevor Noah, because this is a memoir by a comedian. It's funny, it's silly, but it's also really unpacking and talking about the fact that Trevor Noah is born a crime. He is born as a mixed race man. Well, he's not born as a man. He's born as a mixed race boy in South Africa during apartheid, and it's about what it's like to be able to not be raised by both of your parents and see your dad in certain ways in certain places, and the political unrest and what's going on. And so it's quite a serious book, but it's threaded through with humour. It's not even told chronologically, because I think that is just the way that Trevor Noah wanted to write it. But I think Roman is going to enjoy the silliness, the humour in it, but also understand that underlying serious message as well. Going to the more recent films, I'm going to mention Ramsey. Ramsey is someone who's acquired, like, after Fast and Furious 7, she becomes part of the gang. She doesn't even know how to drive, you know? She's there for different purposes than driving, but she's still with all of these drivers. But that doesn't mean that she's a character who doesn't have street smarts, because you have to have street smarts to be part of the Fast and Furious family.
Life is binary. Zeros and ones. Only two things keep a group like this together. Fear or loyalty. And I don't see a drop of fear among you guys.
And so what I'm going to recommend for her is a romance that has loads of drama. you made a fool of death with your beauty by Koiki Mezi, because my girl is going to want a romance that's dramatic, that's got black characters, that's got the sweeping love and romance and steaminess as well, but also something with a main character who's intelligent, who knows how to set her boundaries, and who knows how to go after what she wants, even though this may be tinged with sadness. And maybe somebody who, you know, is taking a little bit advantage of the goods that life can bring her, that the luxury life can give her, because Ramsey is definitely like sliding off the fact that these guys know how to drive and she's just there to do other things. And that's why I think she's gonna love that book. I love You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Koiki Mezi. I think it's fantastic, I think it's dramatic, and once you think the drama has reached its pinnacle, it has not, and there is more to come for you to enjoy. We've got Giselle. So Giselle is a character who grew on me. I didn't particularly love her, but I loved her because I saw her through somebody else's eyes.
Sexy legs, baby girl. What time do they open?
They opened the same time as I pulled this trigger. Want me to open them?
And for Giselle, I'm going to be recommending the book What You're Looking For Is in the Library by Michiko Aoyama. This is specifically because Giselle is somebody who's very fascinated by Japan, and so I could not choose a book that wasn't, you know, Japanese translated for me to recommend for her character. But also, I think Giselle is a hopeful character and she is looking for something. All the time that she is with the gang in Fast and Furious, she has a goal of where she wants to go, Japan, and she has a goal that life is going to be different once she gets there. She's hopeful for it. She's looking for something she does not have. At the same time, she is a precision character. She's a shooter with very good aim. She does things punctually and like she doesn't mess around, and I think the Japanese writing style is going to be a perfect thing for her because often the sentences are to the point, they are short, there's not a lot of flowery writing, and she is going to love that. She's going to love the hopeful tone of these short stories, that she can pick up this book when she wants, put it down when she doesn't have time for it. Mr. Nobody. He is a character that kind of swans in for certain films and just has this big operation and a lot of control over this operation, but he is still nobody. Nobody knows that he exists. He's quite undercover.
Hey, I'm just a guy. I'm Mr. Nobody.
And so the book I'm recommending for Mr. Nobody is Quiet by Susan Cain. He's going to be fascinated by this introvert culture and how to be a leader as an introvert, because he's going to equate it to how to be a leader as somebody who's invisible, who's barely even there, who's the quietest one in the room, but who is manipulating all of the cards. And that's why he's going to like Quiet by Susan Cain. As an INFJ and a self-professed introvert, I really did enjoy reading this non-fiction book as well, and I thought it showed how quietness can have its own kind of power as well, and I just know that Mr. Nobody is going to take control of that. And last but not least, I'm going to recommend a book to Luke Hobbs. Luke Hobbs is probably my least favourite character in the entirety of the Fast and Furious franchise, and that's simply because he's played by The Rock, and I think once you get a character like The Rock in an action film, he kind of changes the nature of it. He's not that much of a driver, he doesn't spend that much time behind the cars. Fast and Furious is about the cars, and so I get frustrated when it becomes all about the action scenes, when it's Jason Statham and The Rock, you know, having their little skirmishes. But alas, he is part of the gang in some ways. He fulfills a role that, you know, certain characters can't fulfill anymore, of upholding the law.
Which is why when I get out, I'm gonna put a hurt on him so bad he's gonna wish his mama had kept her legs closed.
And the book I'm recommending for him is When You Get the Chance by Emma Lord. This is a Mamma Mia retelling young adult book. Now, don't get me wrong, he did not choose to read this book because he is not a reader. However, he would be a reader for his daughter, and his daughter is an avid reader, and so for daddy and daughter time before bed, they have been slowly reading When You Get the Chance by Emma Lord because his daughter loves musicals and loves characters that are independent and going after their dreams. But, you know, quietly, Luke is getting more and more emotional as he reads this book because it's got a single dad who absolutely adores and loves his daughter and would do anything for her. And as he sees the single dad-daughter relationship blossom through this book, he is going to feel quite emotionally attached to it and more connected than his daughter even is. And that is why I recommend this book to him. And there you have it. Those are my recommendations for the Fast and Furious characters. I hope that those characters exist in a universe somewhere and they are going to the library and they are picking up these books, because that would make me incredibly happy. This is also coming as I'm retiring my Fast and Furious phone case that I've had for the last couple of years because it's just so battered, bruised and used. And so this video just kind of marks a little commemoration for that. Please let me know in the comment section down below, what film franchise are you a fan of? Like, there's several of these films and you eat them up and you love them. Please let me know down below. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Hit the subscribe button if you want to see more. And don't forget to hit that notification bell to be updated every time I have a new video. And you know what they say, onwards and upwards. Excelsior!
Thank you.